2008 in particular, and we was talking to you about this at the gym the other day, but bringing Matty Ballin and Matt Orford on the podcast in the coming weeks. So, and you had a few jibes about those fellas, did you?
Matt Orford had his own physio bed Monday morning. He was on it, off his bed. I'm just going to say, and if Matty Ballin comes on, make sure you have plenty of food. He'll bring Tupperware containers too. He'll probably fill those and take them back to the family. Nothing goes by for Matty Ballin for a free feed. He'd bring Tupperware container to the team feeds. Shocking.
But yeah, in all seriousness though, that grand final in 2008, I'm gonna go in a lot more detail with those guys about what it took as a player to get to that victory in 2008 and that really successful era that we had as Manly Seagulls fans and staff like yourself. But when you have people in the team like Brett who, undergoing, as you said, that court case, type 1 diabetes, these injuries, how much more sweet it was it for the team, but also him? I think he got selected for the
His was 2011. That court case was around 2011. So it wasn't around 2008.
Wasn't until, right, okay, yep.
So, look, we've gotten beaten up in 2007 where Snake had come off and it was a bit of a downer, and then it was like a perfect storm, it would have seemed, when it came to that day in 2008, the so-called the stars fully aligned, and everything just there was an air of confidence within the team. I think that was the Battle of Brookvale that year.
Yeah, that was.
I think where they stood up and said, "Nah, you're not." A rivalry with the Storm had really reached its peak, and it just showed how on board everyone was with getting on with the job and gelling together and doing the job. And it was pretty ruthless, to be honest. That 2008 grand final, and it's a pretty amazing feeling with 25 minutes to go in a game, knowing you've fully got the grand final, and you can just sit back and relax and watch it unfold.
As you say, much different to a lot of those matches we had with the Storm, where it came right down to the end. I remember a game at Brookie when Matt Orford kicked that field goal from 30-40 out in golden at point extra time. As you say, the Battle of Brookvale there with Glenn Stewart and the punch up that occurred. And it's really funny because you see that in all the highlights for the rugby league, yet they're so firm on the, no punch, one punch and you go to the bin kind of.
And I know exactly. The atmosphere just rises another 10, 15%. Yeah. Electric and everyone. Yeah. And, rightfully or wrongfully, you can't condone it. But like my young boys, they're now like 14 and 16, but they used to always say, "Show us that highlight, Dad. Show us that highlight." And it just revved up the crowd so much, and it really brought a different sort of intensity into the game. And the last time I felt that was actually when we were playing the Storm down in Melbourne a few years ago when Dylan Walker got into the scrap with Munster, and the whole atmosphere again in the whole stadium went up another 10, 15%. You're like, wow, here's stand up on the back of your neck.
Yeah. Like a lot of people remember the tries, don't they? And the wins. But when you think about those big moments in NRL history, like my mind goes back to Nate Miles and Paul Gallen in Origin. That's a big.
All the state of Origin highlights aren't tries.
Wally Lewis and
Mark Geyer. They're not tries. They're about confrontations.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, they're playing. There's a lot of testosterone there. It's a high contact sport. They're trained to get over the top of one another.
Yeah.
Fuses are going to go.
Yeah.
We got to let off steam. Then the referees used to let it run a little bit, let them have a throw if you get it out of their system. Then now let's get on with the game.
And you look at the Panthers now, and they're right at the top of their game. In an era where it's quite hard to win, they're winning back-to-back titles now, and I think my personal opinion is they've earned the right to have fun, and you see them, with their boom boxes, Jerome Luai, and all of those Polynesian players having a lot of fun with it. Now the same goes for the Seagulls, and I think Donnie said that he testified for this, but The Seagulls, you guys played hard, you were successful, but you knew how to party, the group you had. And there were plenty of pranks that you guys played on Dessie, and give us an insight into a few of those and some of the fun you guys had amongst the group.
So we had a very good, extremely good, in those years, senior group. Yeah, and you're right. I think the media blows out of proportion if a team is seen to be having plenty of successful. It's like you're stamping out the characters of the game. You know, no one's allowed to be a character, no one's allowed to be ourselves. You know, in your own job, you celebrate a success in your own job. You go and have a few beers and you unwind. Yeah, you're allowed to do things that are normal, so to speak. But we had a very good senior players, man, senior group. And I remember the early years, Steve Menzies was really good at bringing them all together. So he used to, you know, arrange a poker night. He had a place down in Harbord that they could use, and they put a fridge in there, and the table tennis tables or pool tables, and they used to get together every Tuesday and all get together, no matter if they played poker or not, but everyone was invited, and they used to hang out together and do that sort of thing. So it builds that bond amongst everyone. You know, and if someone was a Derek, you were still invited because the team thought, well, you're our Derek, so you're staying with us. So one and all in. But yes, so Des, you know, was pretty intense character and could be pretty intense on the field. So there used to be a number of pranks played on him. With his office, when he was out, he was always leaving things behind or misplacing stuff. So there's one instance when he went out and went down at Narrabeen Academy, and a couple of players, there was some ducks around, managed to get a few ducks and leave them with breadcrumbs or something into his office, and then shut the office door. And they were in there for a good half hour before he came back in. There's duck shit everywhere and feathers everywhere. And he had these ducks in his office, and he's blowing up. Who did this? Who was that? Hunting for answers. Another time they got his phone. He was always leaving his phone behind. Yeah, and they got it, and they got a ladder, and they taped it to the ceiling. So it took him an effort to get it down, sort of thing. We used to, I know that we one time got a hold of his phone and got through his phone and changed his screensaver and got hold of his phone and put a big blaring siren on it. So we went into a team meeting, and then we just started calling the phone, and all you could hear was this big air raid sign coming from his pocket. So things like that, just to lighten up. No one would confess to anything, but everyone knew what was going on. Yeah, you had to lighten it. You have to lighten it up somehow, otherwise it's too intense. Train hard, play hard, sort of thing.
How receptive was Dessie to all that?
What's that?
How receptive was Dessie to all of those pranks?
He was pretty good. He took it in his stride. Yeah, he took it in his stride. He was very good like that. He had a good sense of humor. He could be extremely intense, etc. But yes, he took it in his stride.